You are now listening to the Mike's Opinion podcast. Coming up is Anger, episode 3 of a 7-part series entitled Healing.
Have you ever been angry? I mean, really angry? And right now, many of us are furious. Anger doesn't even begin to define. May your soul rest in peace, Mr. George Floyd. We are going to talk about it, how anger affects all of us. Just listen. Welcome back to the Mike's Opinion podcast. And first and foremost, let me apologize and say, I'm so sorry. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you because we had some technical difficulties. Wifey and I, we recorded an episode and it was mad echoey. We tried to get people on Fiverr. I spent time and Audacity and Adobe Audition and trying to get that going, and we sincerely apologize for the delay. For those that are following us and waiting for the new eps, we usually drop on Thursday. So I'm a few episodes behind in this 7-part healing series. Coming up is the third installment, and of course I'm joined by my lovely wife. Hello, wife.
Hello. What's going on?
Well, we're talking about anger in this episode, and as you know, we had recorded the whole episode, couldn't salvage it, so yes, we're having to re-record it. And the episode was dope, y'all. We really was angry at the time. Well, my wife was angrier than I was because she was like, yo, I'm in on this episode. I was like, yes dear,
I was in.
You know,
still a little agitated today, so it's okay.
Yes, PMS week, so it's right on time.
TMI.
Yeah. I'm
that's
sorry.
Okay.
TMI. Well, you know me, babe. I'm transparent. I'm way out there, but you know what I'm saying. I'm happy to have you, with me.
I'm happy to be here
on this journey.
On the anger episode.
That's right. So, just I always like to preface it and say, healing is the name of the series, and it's H.E.A.L.I.N.G. And the first episode was hate. The second episode was emotion. This third episode is entitled Anger, and that's what we want to address today. When I first started this series, the George Floyd murder had not happened yet, and of course the Rayshard Brooks murder had not happened yet. So it's just ironic and coincidental that I was doing this healing series in an effort to help us all heal as human beings from the wrath of human beings over the time that we've been on earth. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Anger, not specifically about the horrific horrific crimes of black people being murdered. But I mean, we're black. My wife's half black, and you know what I'm saying. So she identifies as a black person. You look at her, you might think she's just a black person with good hair. But what I want to zoom out and just talk about anger as a whole. But it's impossible to not talk about the recent murders of George Floyd, because when that cop murdered George Floyd that day, and may his soul rest in peace, nobody knew what was going to happen, but it seems like it's changed. That anger has made people take action.
True.
Right?
Yeah. People have been stepping up. Things have been progressing. Now there have still been some protests and riots where people were angry and emotional. But in the midst of all that, there have been some significant changes happening. White people have been stepping up.
Yeah.
Other police officers have been stepping up and speaking out. And, those are things that are having, they're giving us progress. So, but the thing that angers me is when Black people were protesting and rioting in the wake of George Floyd's murder. You know, I have people messaging me and commenting on my posts, white people, saying, "Why do you have to riot? I don't understand." And those types of comments really enrage me, because that's not what you should be concerned about. Non-Black people don't understand that when somebody Black is murdered and no one is held accountable, we're angry, we're hurt, we're tired of it. And for you to sit up there and be upset about buildings being vandalized and stores being looted, that's not what your concern should be. You should be concerned about your fellow human being that was murdered for the world to see, and nobody did anything about it. So when white people message me and comment to me in an angry fashion or in a negative fashion about looters and rioters and protesters because you're so inconvenienced that you can't go buy toilet paper at your favorite store, that to me says you're ignorant or racist, or maybe you don't realize it, and at the very least, insensitive. When someone is murdered, you know, if you're standing there in front of that person being murdered, you should feel heartbroken. You should feel shocked, disturbed. Your first emotion should not be anger about a store or about a building.
Right.
You know, these types of things are what anger me. And there's a lot of that going on right now. You
were hurt and saddened and pissed and angry. And, you know, a person that you knew for a long time, you and him went at it, and I thought you handled it wonderfully, you know, and didn't just shoot back at him in angry fashion. And just like I talked about in the emotion episode, it's about control, because anger is an emotion, and it can make you lose control.
And racism is something that, makes me go from 0 to 100 really quick. It's very hard for me to contain my emotions when the situation is racism, because it's very personal for me. But when this certain person commented, I know that this person is not racist. So my problem was, why are you making this comment? Why is it when somebody posts about Black Lives Matter or any anti-racism post, why do you feel triggered? That's what I want to know. And I try to, have a dialogue with people so that they can figure out why they feel triggered. You shouldn't feel triggered. You should feel hurt, just like we feel hurt. Well,
all that anger should be redirected to the actual cause.
Right.
But I always try to understand both sides and empathize with the other person.
I do too.
And enlighten them when the situation dictates. And I think that's what you did, to several people on social media, because, like you said, even, people that are closer to us were like, why are they tearing everything up? And I want to play a snippet from a young activist. Her name is Kimberly Latrice Jones. You can find her all over the place. But I had to fight back tears when I was listening to her. And the first time we listened to it, we was at the kitchen table. And, I scrolled through stuff, and I was not expecting, I don't know this woman. I was not expecting to hear this passion. And I mean, that touched me, and it touched a lot of people, because she caught fire. The whole thing is 6 minutes. I'm not going to play the whole 6 minutes, and I don't know how it's just going to come through on the recording, but I want to play it because she starts out calm. I should play the whole 6 minutes actually, and give her a whole snippet, but in respect for everybody's time who may be listening, you can look it up. Kimberly Latrice Jones. She's all over social media. Trevor Noah just shouted her out. because she mentioned him, and now he follows her, and he shouted her out. And I want to say it was on John Oliver when I first saw this, and shouts and props to John Oliver.
Yes.
You also need to check him out. He has been down with us. When I say down with us, I mean, black people, us African American people. But I want you to hear this.
To play, and every time that they don't like the way that you're playing, or that you're catching up, or that you're doing something to be self-sufficient, they burn your game. They burn your cards. They burn your Monopoly money. And then, finally, at the release and the onset of that, they allow you to play, and they say, okay, now you catch up. Now, at this point, the only way you're going to catch up in the game is if the person shares the wealth, correct? But what if every time you share the wealth, then there's psychological warfare against you to say, oh, you're an equal opportunity hire. So if I played 400 rounds of Monopoly with you, and I had to play and give you every dime that I made, and then for 50 years, every time that I played, if you didn't like what I did, you got to burn it like they did in Tulsa and like they did in Rosewood. How can you win? How can you win? You can't win. The game is fixed. So when they say, why do you burn down the community? Why do you burn down your own neighborhood? It's not ours. We don't own anything. We don't own anything. Trevor Noah said it so beautifully last night. There's a social contract that we all have. That if you steal or if I steal, then the person who is the authority comes in and they fix the situation. But the person who fixes the situation is killing us. So the social contract is broken. And if the social contract is broken, why the fuck do I give a shit about burning the fucking Football Hall of Fame, about burning a fucking Target? You broke the contract when you killed us in the streets and didn't give a fuck. You broke the contract when for 400 years we played your game and built your wealth. You broke the contract when we built our wealth again on our own, by our bootstraps in Tulsa, and you dropped bombs on us. When we built it in Rosewood and you came in and you slaughtered us. You broke the contract, so fuck your Target. Fuck your Hall of Fame. As far as I'm concerned, they could burn this bitch to the ground. And it still wouldn't be enough. And they are lucky that what black people are looking for is equality and not revenge.
Say that shit, sister.
Yes.
And, I wanted to share that. And I retweeted it because she said it so passionately and eloquently. And at the beginning of that interview, she wasn't nearly as heated as that.
Nope.
But you could just see it and feel it boil over. And she echoed the sentiments of so many other people. And I wanted to bring that up because, you mentioned a lot of people, white people in particular. Well, why are they burning stuff down? They don't understand. First of all, we don't own none of this shit.
No.
So why the fuck not burn it down? And it's still, like she said, would not be enough. There is nothing that can repay 400 years. And I want to just hundreds of years. Nothing can repay that. The lives, there's so many exponential and so many factors involved. And now we just got a little bit of ammunition with these cell phones. We can finally capture this shit and say, look.
Yes, this is what's happening.
Right. And this is only in the last 20, 30 years that we've had this technology. And even I'd say the last 10, because the technology wasn't even that good. No. And now with social media. So we have a little bit of ammunition to bring this shit to a halt. But if you think about all the hundreds of years, decade after decade after decade, that we didn't have this, that it was our word against a police officer, or when the police culture itself was built around oppressing black people. If you look back to history, why police departments were created, it was to suppress and keep black people in control. Check out your history. I do not have enough time right now. If this would be a 5-hour podcast, maybe I should do one and give everybody a fucking history lesson. But, that I was not expecting to see that sister break that down like that. And it was really moving. And it's some hard shit to come to grips with, right? Because you want to love your country. You want to be in the country. But honestly, why the fuck should any black person love this country?
It doesn't love us.
It has not loved us. But she says something so poignant and so focused. And that is, this country should be happy. Very elated that we want equality and not revenge.
Yes. She said that.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, this anger episode is really, we're all almost on the cusp. I don't want it to turn into an immersion into anger. You know, I want to capture some of the recent days' anger, and it's still going. This is some of the longest protests that I've seen, and we've been here before.
Yeah,
many times. Ahmaud Arbery, Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland. I mean, the list goes on and on. If you listen to my hate episode, I started out listing 32 names, and that's just in recent years. The names, I could probably do a podcast for hours just to listing names of dead people killed by white lynch mobs or white policemen.
I saw a image of a black young man holding up a sign that said "Justice for blank." He left the name blank, and he wrote this on the poster: "Justice for blank." I left it blank because, unfortunately, I will probably need this again in 5 years. And that post was about 4 years old.
Yeah, and it wasn't even... Yeah, right. But this goes on regularly, you know, and we're not even over the George Floyd. And I always want to say, may his soul rest in peace, Mr. Floyd. But then Rayshard Brooks. Now, I saw a black sheriff say that Rayshard Brooks was justified, and I wanted to jump through the screen and slap the shit out of him because he is so entrenched in the system. You know, he's part. And I don't say every black cop is an Uncle Tom, because if you become part of the establishment, I always think in terms of the Matrix. You know, Mr. Smith, you either Neo or Mr. Smith. Which side are you on? The side for freedom or not? But Rayshard was sleeping in a drive-thru. He fell asleep in a drive-thru and ended up dead. Mm-hmm. Now, the cop has been charged. But like I said, I don't want this just to be an angry episode. I want to talk about anger, and in the whole mention of the series is healing. I like to contribute positively, and some major barriers are coming down right now. Today, 2 things happened. Aunt Jemima, the syrup, and Uncle Ben's, the rice, are discontinuing the brands.
It's good.
Which I think is remarkable. There's some fundamental changes that are happening that should have been happened.
Yeah.
But I mean, some things seemingly are really starting to change. There's consideration to changing the Confederate names on military bases, named after Confederate military personnel.
That's a big change.
Yeah, well, that's not, the president is fighting that. But a lot of monuments are coming down.
The monuments are coming down. NASCAR banned the Confederate flag. That was a big surprise for me. Yeah. There's also a lot of fakeness going on, though.
Yes.
Because right now, Black Lives Matter is trending.
Right.
It's trendy. So these companies and these little emails you see in your inbox here and there, Black Lives Matter, we support you. I'm not buying it. Because they're still, today I saw that there were 6 different black men found hanging from trees.
Yes.
And we're going to try and cover it up and say that it was suicide. That's some bullshit. So, you know, while all this change is going on, there is the racists that are they're unsettled. These racists are coming out of the woodworks, and they're trying their best to terrorize us and to keep us down because they see what's going on. So, there's a lot of fakeness going on. And I've been trying to just stay away from it all.
Good.
So that I don't have to absorb any of this negativity. And I hear about good things and I hear about bad things, and I'm trying not to hear about any of it. Because
but you're torn, right? Because you need to know, right? We have a son that we're, raising, and I'm a light-skinned brother. Okay, we know about the internal shit about that, light skin versus dark skin, but white people see me as black. I don't care if I'm black as midnight or albino. I am perceived. I got big lips. My wife calls them soup coolers, even though her lips bigger than mine. But that's another argument because she don't
lies.
Think it's not lies. Anyway, she's half black, half Asian. So, but our son, I don't know he will immediately be perceived as black because he's got some of that Asian blood in you. You half Asian, so
he has a lighter complexion.
He's a real light complexion, but I just don't know with his hair and his look that he will immediately be perceived as black.
Maybe not. My older sister had that kind of experience. She had a completely different experience than I had with us growing up in the South. So, and she's a lighter complexion. Her and our son are maybe almost the same complexion.
No, our son is lighter than she is, but he'll probably get darker.
And she did not have the same experience that I did.
Right.
She was never called a nigger, a porch monkey, a jigaboo. She never went through that. She didn't have anybody spit in her face. She didn't have to fight for years in grade school and junior high. And
but you did.
High school. I did. I was the darker complected sister. And
you're sexy though. You paper brown.
That was a real experience. So it does matter about complexion.
It matters.
But when it comes down to it, black is black in the eyes of a white man and a white woman.
Right. That's right. And it's sad. It's really sad to say, but white people just do not understand. Listen to my other episodes, especially the ones in this series. You'll never understand what it's like to live in this skin, to live in this existence. It's daily. It's fucking exhausting being black, and it's not just America because other people suffer to it too. And the world has joined this, but I understand what you're saying about, that fakeness because a lot of these people are pledging so they don't get burnt down when the next one happens.
Exactly.
We were standing with you.
Right.
And they thinking from an economic perspective. And I understand, I get it. But, like Ms. Joe said, we don't own none of this shit.
No.
In our hood. So why are you burning down the stuff in your neighborhood? It ain't our shit.
No.
It's part of the establishment. When we see Target, we see white. Okay. When we see the Hall of Fame, we see white, because we don't own anything. We've never given the opportunity. And like she said in Tulsa, and up until maybe 10 years ago, I wasn't even up on that, but I learned about that by happenstance because I read a lot. I'm always, looking at the news or something. And it was, I think at the time it was the anniversary. We had our own everything in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They called it Black Wall Street, and white lynch mob killed up to 300 people in a day or two and burnt the whole shit to the ground. We had our own black-owned grocery stores, black-owned laundromats, black-owned gas stations, black-owned everything. And they burnt the shit to the ground. And this is the first time that's happened. So where does it end? Where does something new begin? Where does real acceptance and inclusion begin? But okay, we took the first 20 minutes or so being angry. So let's talk about some possible solutions. In my notes, when I started this healing acronym, and by the way, I don't think I mentioned it. H is for spelling out healing is an acronym. H is for hate, E is for emotion, A is for anger, L is for love, I is for involvement, N is for negativity, and G is for giving. And I'm doing an episode on each one of those. And like I said, this is the anger episode. So anger, the Merriam-Webster.com, or the definition is, as a noun, is a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. As a verb, it's filled with anger, provoke anger in. Anger is also known as wrath or rage. It's an intense emotional state involving a strong, uncomfortable, and hostile response to a perceived provocation, hurt, or threat. So when we think about things that have made us angry, and so far we've only concentrated on the recent murders and atrocities to black people, but I want to zoom out and just talk about anger as a whole. Can you think, when have you been your angriest? You know, I mean, now think about that for a second, babe, because, you know, in love, you know, we've been in different relationships. You know, you've got a kid, you know, you got a spouse now, that, you know, a husband, and, you know, the race issues that have happened. Can you think of a time like you were just steaming, like you lost control, like just pissed beyond belief?
All of the times that I have been the angriest have had to do with race. All of them. That is the only time where, well, it wasn't the only time, but those are the most significant times where I have just blanked out and saw red.
Yeah, I feel.
You know, I can remember being in junior high school, and, you know, the boy that sat behind me in my science class would every day call me a nigger. He would just spout this hateful bullshit, you know, whisper it in the back of my head every day. And I got to the point where, you know, I'm a very calm, quiet person. It takes a lot for me to boil over. And it was days before I finally got angry enough to turn around, yoke this boy up by his shirt collar, and choke him in midair. Okay? So I still remember what his face looked like when I was choking him. You know, his eyes were as big as saucers. And I was so full of anger and rage that my face, tears just kept falling out. And I was just so angry, you know. And I didn't even get in trouble for that because my science teacher knew exactly why and knew that I was justified in what I did.
Well, shout out to the science teacher. and did he have any trouble with that dude after that?
I didn't. And you know what's funny about that is that me and that boy were friends after that. So that, to me, says that was a learned behavior. He heard this from his daddy and his daddy's daddy.
Right.
And he didn't know any better.
Right.
And my science teacher took him out in the hallway and yelled at him and told him, you know, don't you understand that you're hurting her?
Right.
You know, and from that point on, me and him were friends.
Well, you make me think about 2 points. One is that, you know, I mentioned in the hate episode, the first episode in this series, is that hate is learned. You know, yeah. I doubt that babies come out with hate in their heart.
They don't.
You know, and 2 is the only way to stand up to a bully is to fight back. Now, you think about the Black Panthers, right? The only time the NRA has only ever suggested a ban on assault weapons ever was when the Black Panthers pulled out of their assault weapons and marched in public spaces.
How about that?
How about that? Right? Now, I'm not advocating violence, but we've been getting bullied as a race for, Tuskegee experiment, crack, mass incarceration. I mean, the list goes on and on. Suppressed, enslaved, bullied. The only way that a bully will truly stop fucking with you is when you fight back. So when Miss Jones was talking about she don't give a fuck if we burn this whole shit down, I can't help but feel the same way because I don't want to destroy this country. I don't want to embark upon a violent segment in our history where, you know, everything is burnt, especially during a fucking pandemic. No. But, you know, these people that protest, you always hear people, peaceful protest.
Oh,
peaceful protest.
Yeah.
Because nobody respects that shit.
Do it peacefully.
Yeah, we'll march, let them march, and then they'll go home and we'll keep doing the same shit. It's sad that I even have to say that. But the only real change has come from us fighting back. And I mean outcry. Fighting back.
Because what about Cap? Cap protested peacefully.
Colin Kaepernick. Mm-hmm.
And y'all shit on him.
But guess what's happening now? Today, Roger Goodell said somebody in NFL should hire him.
They should.
Before, he wasn't saying that. Yeah. But now, everybody's like, in the NFL, we should give Cap a job because he was right.
Because now the NFL has this campaign. Oh, now Black Lives Matter. Oh. Now we matter.
Because burn some shit down.
It didn't matter when Cap was kneeling. Now it matters.
Right.
So now the NFL wants to backtrack just like Starbucks and everybody else.
Right.
Now it's okay.
But you know my fear in that and what I've said and what I'll say now, and I mean that, is I will not become the hater. Because I know that violence, that burning shit down, destruction of property, burning precincts and police cars, and sadly even some policemen getting ambushed and murdered, it's fucked up. But I know it's necessary because if we don't do shit, nothing will fucking change. We will try to be peaceful and protest peacefully by the thousands, hundreds of thousands, even the million man mark. We will do that and nothing changes. Shit stays the same because we didn't do shit to get your attention.
And and the thing is, our government doesn't peacefully protest. Our government, when they want something, they deploy troops. They go to war. So you want us to protest peacefully.
Right.
You don't protest peacefully. Right. You deploy missiles. You send drones out. You blow people the fuck up.
Yes.
So where is the peace in that protest?
Yeah. So once again, it's hard not to come back to that. I want to talk about a Roman philosopher. His name was Seneca. And he was alive from sometimes around 4 BC to 65 AD. So, you know, he studied anger. And from his experiences and observations, he formulated ways to control anger. And that's what I'd like to be the main purpose. I know me and you are angry, and we, you know, as black people, it's easy to delve into that. But like I said, while I understand some of this violence and fight back is necessary, I would like to do, or people to do that violence without the hatred in their heart, because I don't want any of us to become what we hate. You know, I don't want to become the hater.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I still love you, even though you want to hang me from a tree. Racist. I still love you, even though you want to tie me to a bumper and tie a rope around me until my fucking head pops off, like Mr. Bird right here in East Texas. So, like I said, the examples go on and on, but there's no hate in my heart for white people. There's no hate in my heart for people that hate me. But at some point, you have to stand up for yourself. And sometimes that requires confrontation and violence.
That's right.
I want to talk about some of the physical effects of anger as a whole. Anger triggers the body's fight or flight response. And other emotions that trigger this response include fear, excitement, and anxiety. When you're angry, the adrenal glands flood the body with stress hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol, and the brain shunts blood away from the gut towards the muscles. in preparation for physical exertion. This is what happens to you physically when you get angry.
I feel that right now.
You know what I'm saying? Your heart rate, blood pressure, and respiration all increase. Your body temperature rises and the skin perspires and the mind is sharpened and focused. So you add that into a natural construct, right? Today in 2020, you add to that caffeine, energy drinks, social media, news provocation.
Yeah.
People are fucking amped.
Yes.
Amped.
People
That's why they're shooting. Well, I've said this before in other episodes, not just the healing series, but I think there is something fundamentally wrong with humans because historically we cannot get the fuck along.
No.
You know, there's something wrong with us. You know, just take away color or race or culture or religion, sexual orientation, any of that. Just fundamental human to human, something wrong with us. So if there are aliens or other civilizations, which I believe there are watching us, we ain't ready to come to the table, to the galactic table, because we down here on some heathen, savage, Neanderthal bullshit still in 2020.
They already know that.
You know? And, you know, at this point, should the earth just wipe itself clean and start over as it has before? Because, you know, if you believe in Christianity and the Holy Bible, you know, Sodom and Gomorrah, God's like, I'm Thanos and all you motherfuckers. Because y'all tripping. You know, but like I said, it's hard not to zoom in on this, but I would like to keep this broader, you know, anger as a whole and in point, how do we heal? I want to offer something in every episode and suggestions how we heal. So thinking about, you know, that we voiced the anger, we've given many examples, especially from the Black experience and the recent atrocities. But if you zoom out historically, just as a whole, how do we control our anger? How do we help lessen our angriness?
A good thing to do is write about it. Keep a journal, write in a notebook, write down how you feel, all the emotions that you feel, good or bad. Write it down. Get some energy out. Exercise. A good run gets out a lot of energy, whether it be negative or positive. You know, after you go for a run or do a workout, you don't feel that same tension anymore. Yoga, baking. There's plenty of things that you can do to alleviate your anger, alleviate the stress and the tension. I journal myself almost daily, and I may not even be angry, but journaling, just making a habit of journaling, is really healthy. When you have a lot of thoughts in your mind, if you put them on paper, it will help you, you know, go on about your day. It helps you to not be as stressed. You put things on paper in black and white, and then you can kind of organize things. So if you're angry, you have a lot of pent-up frustration, writing about it definitely does help. So those are just a couple of things.
Yeah, in the other episodes, and as I mentioned now, you know, deep breathing is very effective in calming yourself. Now, I think it's up to a certain point, because once you've passed a certain point, I don't think that breathing is going to help you, because it might, but it takes a great deal of control to bring yourself down. And if you've gotten to that point, maybe, you know, some physical altercation is inevitable. But, you know, I think we should all do that, and I should practice it more. But if you think when you sleep, that's what you do. You deep breathe when you're sleeping. And when you do that consciously while you're awake, it can be very effective. But some of these things invoke immediate rage. Like you said, from 0 to 100, you pass all that possibility of control when you see that. But we all must practice it. Even if you're fucking shit up and rioting, don't let it come from a place of anger. Let it come from a place of purpose.
They actually have these things now called rage rooms, where you pay an admission and you go in, you can break whatever you want. And so those would be significantly well used right about now if there were enough of them around.
Yeah, but you know what? I like that rage on the street, though. We're not out there. Like I said, my mother wasn't out there in the 60s. I'm not out there. I did this podcast so I can contribute something, not just to the Black Matters Live movement or Black people as a whole, but to Earth and all Earthlings. I don't know when I'm going to go. Hopefully I have another 50 plus years, but I want to leave something and give some type of positivity to the world, because all I'd like to see is a utopian society where everybody loves each other. There's no crime. There's no hate, and everybody gets along. But I'm a dreamer, and I'm not terribly optimistic that will ever happen as long as we're dealing with human beings on planet Earth, at least not for millennia. And I'm not even saying decades or centuries. It's going to take millennia. Hopefully this is a first step to some true fundamental racial inequality change in the United States and in the world. But it's still going to take too long to get washed out, because so many haters and racists are teaching hate to their people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I know that it may be nearly, impossible. With the health problems with anger, just speaking as anger as a whole, the constant flood of stress chemicals and associated metabolic changes that go with ongoing unmanaged anger can eventually cause harm to many different systems of the body. And I want to repeat a certain part of that. Ongoing unmanaged anger. Ongoing unmanaged anger. So those people that's just pissed.
Yes.
All the time, that don't know how to process their anger or emotion, and that just stay angry all the time. And some of the short and long-term health effects that have been linked to unmanaged anger: headache, digestion problems, abdominal pain, insomnia, increased anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, skin problems such as eczema, heart attack, and stroke. These are all things that can come from staying pissed all the time. And like I said earlier, if you add to that, there are factors that contribute to the sheeple staying sheeple. And sheeple is a combination of sheep and people, if you haven't heard of that before, because the ones that are in control is a small number versus us that are out here in the general population, right? And the diet. Now, you see healthier commercials lately, but still what dominate are the butters, the steak slathered in butter, the fried food, the French fries, the cheeseburgers, the potato chips, the beer, all of these commercials. And the point of that is your diet, which keeps you docile and sluggish and contributes to health problems. And make no mistake, we're all hooked.
Yes.
Because it's addictive.
It
the
is.
Chemicals, the sugars, the salts, all these things are addictive. And to eat, wifey and I, we were vegan for about 3-4 months. And then a commercial got us. We were sitting around. We saw like a steak or cheeseburger commercial one day.
Yes.
And
I remember.
We was like, let's go get it. And we ate it and we felt like shit because I could taste the grease. When you don't eat fried foods for a while, you can, the first French fry
I didn't. I felt good.
It felt good, but nah, I mean, that's because that's like any addictive substance. After years of being raised on it, you know what I'm saying? It's hard to get away of.
Yeah.
But you add to that like these energy drinks that are loaded.
Oh wow.
With caffeine. I worked retail about 20 plus years ago, and it was a brief stint, but I'll never forget this little Latino lady, small little thing. Mm-hmm. And she had worked a regular job, and she would come and work part-time in the women's department in this large department store that will be unnamed. And she probably, in the 3-hour shift, she would work 6 to 9 because the mall closed at 9. She would drink like 3 Red Bulls.
Oh, wow.
She would be amped, and I'm pretty sure she did that to stay up because she was tired. But one day, this big dude, probably 6'4", 6'5", she's probably like 5'1", if that, said something to her, and she snapped and tried to jump on him. And she got fired, but she was clearly over caffeinated.
Wow.
Because I watched the whole thing unfold, and then security came, and she was amped up on these days and days and days of caffeine. So what I'm trying to say is, or what I'm saying is, it's all connected.
It's detrimental.
It's all connected. This is why on the news, when you look at their commercials, a large swath of their commercials are antidepressants.
Yes.
Or pharmaceuticals.
Yep.
And it's laughable when they mention these side effects of these pharmaceuticals. So, there is I dare say, a plan, a strategic effort to keep the masses docile, but productive enough to be the labor force to make the rich and the ones in control richer. Okay? Now, I digress a lot, as I am doing now, but it's all connected. This anger that we all experience from time to time, even as kids, and my wife and I are blessed enough that I can't say I've seen our son angry a lot.
Not so much. He has a tiny little temper.
He's under 10, but we've seen other children.
Oh, yes. Very much
his
so.
age get rah-rah with it.
Yes. Younger than him.
And just get real angry real quick.
Yeah. Violent and hostile.
You know, now I've intentionally kept my family in a bubble. My wife, hasn't worked outside the home, and she works keeping the household straight. We homeschool, and we don't have a lot of interaction with outside, people. I office out of my house, and so we've been in a bubble, and I've set that up purposely. So this pandemic really hasn't affected us because we didn't have no commute, we didn't go to no job, so we're blessed, fortunate, lucky, whatever you want to call it. So we're watching all of this stuff transpire. And like I said, I started this healing series before George Floyd, before Ahmaud Arbery, before any of this really kicked off. And so this was just so fitting that I'm able to talk about this, and my wife joined in and, talking about these things that we are feeling, but we want to heal, y'all. We have to find a way to make humanity be more than human. We have to be better as living, conscious organisms on planet Earth. Can you imagine for a second if China didn't want to kill America, if Russia didn't want to kill America, if America didn't want to kill China, if everything wasn't about the dollar, if everything wasn't about money, if we cared and shared with one another, if we didn't care what color, what race, what religion, what sexual orientation, what your height was, what your size was, what your hair texture is, what any of that. It was just one human to another, loving each other, sharing earth, respecting our planet, living one with the land, and loving each other. Can you imagine a world where we didn't need guns and nuclear weapons and missiles and to burn shit and riot because of anger and hatred? Can you envision a world like that? I can. I'm a dreamer, but I don't know that it'll ever happen. Like I said, I'm not terribly optimistic, but healing is what we need to do. And people may say, well, heal from what? You have to be injured in order to heal. Well, look back at other empires. Look back at the oldest books. There's hatred mentioned in the book of Genesis. There is something possibly wrong, fundamentally, with human beings. And the first person you can start with is the person you see when you look in the mirror. And I would like us all to start to consciously try to be nicer and kinder, more understanding and loving to one another. The first step is control. In the emotion episode, I mentioned controlling your emotions. Anger is an emotion. And if we try to control it, I know we will be better as a species. You know, my brother from another mother calls me Thanos. And he calls me a bunch of things. He calls me a Viking because he says I'm always rah-rah with it. And when Thanos snapped his finger and got rid of 50% of all that was in existence, I said that was a good start. And that sounds extreme and wrong. But we have to start somewhere, getting rid of half of the people on this planet. I wish we could just get rid of all the bad people.
That's what I was thinking.
Right?
If there was a guarantee that you could get rid of 50% of the race, the human race, and the 50% be all racists and pedophiles and murderers and, just the bad people, I'd be all for it.
That would be cool. Now, you just said something that made me think about something. What? These emotions, like anger, like we're speaking about today, it's not isolated to human beings. We live with pets, a dog and 2 cats. I have seen my cat get pissed at both the other cat and the dog, to the point where there's some physical activity going on.
True.
You know what I'm saying? So I said it in another episode that I wouldn't hate to see everybody emotionless. I said that in the emotion episode. What if everybody was emotionless? I wouldn't want a world, because then you have no joy, no laughter, no love. Getting angry, I think, is natural. But letting that anger control you. And this is why I say my experience is different from yours. I grew up in the Northeast. I grew up in New York City.
Right.
Born and raised, right? Shout out to New York. But you grew up abroad. You lived out of the country. Then you came into the country. But primarily your formative years were in the South.
Right.
In America.
Unfortunately.
Deep South.
Yes.
And our experiences, are different. It wasn't as blatant in New York because you really couldn't get away with it, there. But to see these experiences that we have as human beings and knowing that we can control, we can forgive, we can empathize, try to understand what the other person is feeling. But so many of these people, I feel sorry for. Like I said in the hate episode, I feel sorry for the hater and the racist. Now, you feel differently.
I do.
And I've been trying to share and change your mind and your heart on that.
Mm-hmm.
Why you have the look on your face?
Because I just, for a long time, I was the type to turn the other cheek and give people the benefit of the doubt. And, in the last, I'd say, maybe 5 or 6 years, I've gotten less and less that way. I've gotten away from that because I've seen that people just take advantage. They just keep stepping on you. They keep doing it, and they keep doing it if you keep letting them do it. So, unfortunately, I'm not sure that I feel the same way anymore. I don't think that I can give people the benefit of the doubt
Yeah, but
anymore.
you got to, because then if you don't, you become them.
I don't want to become them, but I'm not trusting anymore. I don't trust people anymore.
No, I know, but you can't give up on humanity. And even though this is a hopeless situation, like I said, I'm not terribly optimistic. I'm not giving up on humans or humanity or peace on earth. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. That's the way that song went. You know, we can't give up. And the reason why I say, now I want to say I grew up in New York. I'm not going to say I had zero hostility or zero racism. It was there. It just, wasn't as subtle. But sometimes Puerto Ricans be like, hey, nigga, you know what I'm saying? So it was there. It just wasn't as prominent as it was where you grew up in the deep South. But, I have always felt sorry for them. Because to me, that hatred, that racism is like a cancer inside of them. You hate me immediately upon looking at me. The first second you see me, you hate me and want to kill me. There's those extreme racists out there, racists out there, that feel that way. They think we're inferior. They think we're not human, or whatever, which is asinine. In fact, we're more human. We're much less savage. We're in touch with the rhythm of the planet. Our soul, the melanin in our skin. There's so many provable factors. We don't feel like we need to control everything or experience everything or know why this works down to the final detail. That's not most black people. Like, white people do shit way differently. There's plenty of comedians that have pointed this out in many examples. And they just got to keep going. Rah, rah, rah. They don't know how to sit the fuck down and relax.
No, because they need to divide and conquer.
Yeah, but that comes from insecurity. They don't feel good in themselves unless they're in control or conquer some shit or challenging this and challenging that. Right. Sit the fuck down and enjoy the planet. Fucking relax. But I feel sorry for them. And I do not want to misconstrue my due diligence in ferociously defending myself and my family, because I love you, and you can call me nigga, porch, you can call me whatever you want to, but if you lay a hand on me or if I feel threatened, I am going to bring a human tornado and do all I can to fervently destroy you in any manner possible.
Indeed.
But I don't let that motivate me. That's just there. Like that dog that's wagging his tail and you touch him in the wrong place and he turns around and rips your throat out. That's me. I'll flip on you real quick if I need to. But I'm non-violent. I don't want to do that. But I recognize the necessariness, and that's not a word, of that. That's necessary. It's mandatory, because you can't just lay down and be killed and murdered. You gotta defend yourself.
Exactly right.
And that's what people are trying to do now. So, anger can destroy you if you let it. Anger can also be controlled if it hasn't reached a certain point. So this is my message to anyone who hears this. Control your anger. My wife mentioned writing, journaling, yoga and meditation. I mentioned deep breathing, exercising, and putting good foods and nutrients in your body. I think those are steps in the right direction to help you become more calm and to help us heal the human race, because we are damaged. Humans can't get along with each other, and I'd like to see that change. Wouldn't you? I hope you would. So Is there anything else you want to say? I know in the first episode you had a quote.
I have a quote. Benjamin Franklin said, "Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are." And that's something that we all should think about.
Yeah. And that's as sad as it is. We need white people to be enraged.
Yes.
White
people, Latinos, Asians, Indian, everybody should be outraged. Not just us. Black people are humans just like you are. You should all be as outraged as we are. You should all hurt when you see that man lose his life on TV. You should hurt just like we hurt. You shouldn't change the channel and be upset that something else is going on. You should be hurt and shocked just like we are. We're all humans. It's one race, the human race.
Yeah, it's been going on for so long though. People just accept it as a natural thing. Oh, another black man got killed, little black boy. He must have been doing something wrong.
Exactly.
Right? And I'm not saying he shouldn't have been arrested or shouldn't have been, apprehended. All I'm saying is you don't have to be abused or murdered. But the whole system is fucked. So the whole shit needs to be revamped. And believe me when I say this shocking statement. The whole Constitution, Bill of Rights, all of it needs to be revamped because it was written by people that own slaves.
That's right.
There needs to be a new council. Okay? The whole shit needs to be redone, in my opinion. And God forbid some people are going to lose their mind saying to get rid of the Constitution. Oh my goodness. But in the, not the Pledge of Allegiance, the Star Spangled Banner, that's not the whole song. The whole song includes a triumph or a trumpet to racism. Look it up if you don't believe me. And you wonder why black people don't want to sing it? Anyway, it's just so hard being black not coming back to that. Zooming out, anger. Let's heal each other. Anything else you want to say there?
No, be kind to one another. Live and let live.
Yes.
That's all.
Let love live, y'all.
Let love
live. Thank you for listening. And as my wife said, be kind to one another. Thanks for listening to the Mike's Opinion Podcast.
Thank you so much for listening to Mike's Opinion. Logic Unleashed.